Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Dykun Daniela, Ukraine team, and today I would like to show you my scientific work on the topic antagonistic effect of lactobacilli to pathogens. Currently in human and veterinary medicine, the urgent issue of finding drugs that can become an alternative to antibiotics will be created on the basis of living bacteria and are able to slow down the growth of pathogenic and opportunistic microorganisms that can acquire resistance to antibiotics. Now it's important to find new substances that will act against pathogens and at the same time have a positive effect on the microflora of living microorganisms. The goal of research work was to study the morphological features, determine the biochemical properties of bacteria of the genus Lactobacillus, isolated from meat, food additives, starter cultures, and intestines of laboratory animals, and research of their antagonistic effect on episodic and laboratory strains of microorganisms. Methods: Faces were collected from the rectum of the healthy laboratory rats, sterile saline was added, and tenfold dilutions were made to obtain 10 to the negative 10th power. Made dilutions up to 10 to the negative first power from starter and probiotic cultures. The meat was cut with sterile scissors, minced, and an average sample was made. After preparation of all dilutions, 1 milliliter of the suspension solution placed in a petri dish with a selective medium MRS agar. The seeded petri dishes were put in an aerostat in which microaerophilic conditions were created. Cultivation was carried out in a thermostat at a temperature of 37 and 45 degrees centigrade for 24-72 hours. Liquid medium was used to identify individual species of lactobacilli. After isolation of poor cultures, the cultural properties of the colonies, morphological features, and tinctorial properties of lactobacilli were determined. After that, cultures that showed a positive result on Blickfeld's medium were determined for their ability to split lactose. Only 4 cultures possess this property, isolated from beef, intestines of rats, probiotic and starter cultures. Results: Isolates number 2, 4, 5 fermented the widest spectrum of sugars. Isolate number 1 was the only one that did not split lactose and did not fully ferment maltose. None of the isolates split sorbitol. Analyzing the results of the research and being guided by Begis determinant, the selected isolates were identified. Number 1, Lactobacillus delbrueckii. Number 2, Lactobacillus fermentum. Number 3, Lactobacillus bulgaricus. Number 4, Lactobacillus curvatus. And number 5, Lactobacillus casei. Next studies determined the antagonistic action of lactobacilli. Research was carried out on episodic and laboratory strains of microorganisms stored in the Museum of the Department of Infectious Diseases of Animals of the Dnipro State Agrarian and Economic University. It was established that Lactobacillus delbrueckii, isolated from a food supplement, did not have an antagonistic effect against the episodic strain of Pseudomonas aeruginosa and laboratory Bacillus subtilis. Lactobacillus bulgaricus against laboratory strains of Escherichia coli. Cultures of lactobacilli isolated from the meat and intestines of laboratory rats and identified as Lactobacillus curvatus and Lactobacillus casei synthesized antimicrobial peptides, bacteriocins, that inhibited the growth of a larger number of pathogens. For example, zone of growth inhibition for Staphylococcus aureus was 12.1 and 9.64 millimeters. The results of this work will be useful for the development of new drugs against antibiotic-resistant pathogens, test microorganisms, and treatment schemes for the restoration of normal gut microflora for diseases of various etiologies. Allow me not to read the conclusions as they were spoken during my report. I hope that my work will solve another environmental problem in the world. Thank you so much for your attention.